Om Sadashivasamarabham Shankaracharya Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sat, Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning
Om
again.
Namah Shivaya. Good morning, sir.
So, we are on the Prathama Mundaka, Dvitiya Khanda, first chapter, second section, and we will look at the third mantra, which we will chant together. Yasyagnihotramadarshama paurnamasam
Yasyagnihotramadarshama.
Well, everybody can chant. Yasyagnihotramadarshama paurnamasam
Yasya Agnihotram Adarshama Paurnamasam
Achaturyamasya managrayanam atithivarjitam cha
Achaturyamasam Anagrahanam
Achaturmasyamanagranam
Atita
atithivarjitam.
Varitam Cha
Achaturmasyam anagranayam atithivarjitam cha
Chaturyamasam
Achaturmasyamanagranam
Anagrayanam
anagrayanam
Atithivaritam
atithivarjitam
atithivarjitam cha.
cha ahutam vaishvadevam avidhinahutam
Ahutam
Ahutam
Vaishvadevam
Avaishvadevam Avidhanitahutam.
This is why I keep saying, please join the chanting class. If you don't know the words, how will you ever understand? Ahutam Vaishvadevam Avidhinahutam
Ahutam
Ahutam
Vaishvadevam
Avaishvadevam Avidhinahutam.
Asaptamasastasya lokan hinasti
Asaptamastasya
Asaptamastasya lokan hinasti.
Okay. So there's a chanting class run by Tanmayji every evening on Saturdays. I would strongly suggest that all of you all should join, because this is, without the words being clear in your mind, how will anything be clear? So you have to chant. Chanting is not optional. It's part of the learning process. Parayanam is not optional at all. Okay. So let's look at the words. Yes, yeah. Yes, here is the first one. In the case of that person, Agnihotram, the Agnihotra karma, the Agnihotra ritual, Lokan Asaptaman Hinasti. So that is the last line of the mantra. Lokan Asaptaman Hinasti. The Agnihotra ritual will destroy all the Lokan. Asaptaman means up to the seventh world. So all the seven worlds it will destroy. Tasya, in the case of that person, yasya, in whose case, Hutam means done. The Agnihotram ritual is done. How? Then you have to go back to the first line. Adarsham, without the Darsha ritual. Apaurnamasam, without the Paurnamasa ritual. Achaturyamasam, without the Chaturmasya ritual. Anagrayanam, without the Agrayana ritual. Vaishvadevam, without the Vaishvadeva ritual. Atithi Varjitam, without guests, without honoring guests. And Ahutam, not properly done. Cha Avidhinaha, done without proper rules. Okay. So, we talked about the Agnihotra ritual earlier, and these are the various conditions which are now being laid down by the mantra, by the Shruti. For what purpose? Only if these conditions are fulfilled, the Agnihotra ritual will be effective, it will be efficient. And 8 conditions, if you see, we'll break them up. 8 conditions are mentioned here in this mantra. 6 of them refer to other Vedic karma, other Vaidika karma, which should also be performed along with the Agnihotram. Then only the effect is enhanced. So what are they? So the first line of the mantra says, Adarsham. So there's a ritual called Darsha Karma, Darsha ritual. And it's done once every month during Amavasya. What is Amavasya? The full moon or the new moon?
No moon.
New moon.
Okay, new moon is Amavasya, right? What does new moon mean?
Is the waxing moon. It begins from,
Amavasya.
yeah,
There is no moon
the
on
dark
that day.
night.
No.
There's
The
no
dark
moon on that
night
day,
when
right?
there is
Right.
no.
So
Yeah.
Darsha ritual, that this particular Darsha ritual is done once a month during the Amavasya day. Then similarly, Paurnamasa. Paurnamasa means the exact opposite, full moon day, when the moon is at its brightest. Paurnamasam ritual, Paurnamasam karma is done once in a month on that day. So every month there are 2 karmas to be done. One is on Amavasya day, Darsha, and one is on full moon day, Paurnamasa day, which is called the Paurnamasa ritual. Then Chaturmasyam. So there is a ritual which is done once in every 4 months. That is also included. Then Agrayanam. Agrayanam ritual is done during the month when the crops are being harvested. So that is related to the agricultural part of it, Agrayanam. Then Athithi Pujanam is there. So it says Athithi Varjitam over here, which means you have to take it as without honoring the guest, without Athithi Puja if you do. So that means that every single day of a Grahastha, he has to honor Adithis. And basically, practically, that can be thought of offering food to a guest by way of Annadanam. Then there is a Vaishwadevam, a ritual given to, when the offerings are made to animals. And this will come under what yajna among the Panchamaga yajna, offering to animals?
Bhuta Yagna.
Bhuta
Bhuta
Yajna.
Okay, so Vaishwadeva ritual is a Bhuta Yajna. Then there is the time. There are Agnihotra has to be done actually thrice, but we'll take it as twice. So morning and evening it has to be done. So the Kala is important, the time is important. And Vidina Hutam. So there's a right procedure to be followed. Which offering is to be given first, which offering is to be given later, where you have to sit on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, where you have to offer, the whole host of conditions laid down in Shruti. So within, all the vidhis have to be followed. And these are the 8 conditions. If these 8 conditions are not fulfilled, what will happen? Even though he does the ritual, he may not get Swarga. Okay. Higher lokas. So he says Lokan. Lokan here means the higher lokas. And there are how many lokas?
14 in
14
all,
worlds.
and 7
We are
the
talking
Punya
about
Loka.
higher lokas. Okay, we are not talking about the
Ah,
lower lokas.
okay.
The
Because this is
7.
Punyam. So there are
7.
7. What are they?
Bhur Bhuvah Subha
Yes.
Bhuvasvaha.
and
Maha
Brahmaloka,
Janah
Maha,
Tapah Satyam.
Maha,
Janah
Janaha,
Tapah
Tapaha,
Satyam.
Satyam. Right. Bhur, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, Maha, Janaha, Tapaha, Satyam. These are the 7 lokas, out of which 6 are higher lokas. And one is Bhuloka, which is where we stay. So, right? So Bhuloka is there, then there are 6 higher lokas. Each of these lokas is covered under the general definition of Swarga, heaven, right? And in that order, so the heaven, the Swarga just above us is Suvaha. And then a higher Swarga is Mahaha. And a still higher Swarga is Janaha. A still higher Swarga is Tapaha. And the highest Swarga is Satyam. and has also got another name. What is that?
Brahmaloka.
Brahmaloka. Satyaloka is Brahmaloka. Okay. So if these conditions are not fulfilled, effectively what does it mean? He doesn't get the amount of punyam required to travel to any of the Svargalokas, any of the 6 lokas. You can't say 7 lokas because he's already there in Bhuloka. Okay. So Yasya Agnihotram, this person performs the Agnihotram, Adarsham, without Darsha ritual. Okay. Now, one important point here is that from the reading of the mantra, it will appear that the Agnihotram ritual is deficient without the performance of the other parts, Darshayaga, for example, over here. Okay. And normally, when you say that a ritual is deficient without the performance of another ritual, one is the main ritual and one is the part or the subsidiary ritual. So the main ritual we call Angi and the subsidiary ritual we call Angam. That these words you need to remember. Angi means the main one, Angam means the part or the subsidiary one. And therefore it would appear from the reading of this mantra that he is saying that the 7 lokas will be destroyed if you don't do all the other karmas, right? It will appear that Agnihotram is the Angi and Darsha ritual is the Angam. So that is not a correct reading. So Shankaracharya writes in his commentary that Agnihotram is a complete ritual without any other rituals. Okay, even if you don't do what all are specified here, Agnihotram is not an incomplete ritual without Darsha Yaga, right? But Darsha Yaga is treated as an Angam only because it's a compulsory ritual for Grahastha. So Agnihotram is also compulsory for the Grahastha. Darsha Yaga is also compulsory for the Grahastha. Paurnamasam is also compulsory. Chaturmasam is also compulsory. But Shankara wants to very specifically clarify that Agnihotram is not to be treated as Angi for the purpose of treating the others as Angam. Agnihotram is complete by itself, and each of the other rituals are being taken as Angam only because they are also compulsory. A very technical distinction, but important to understand. And so a Paurnamasam without Paurnamasa ritual, a Chaturya Masam without the Chaturmasa ritual, an Agrayanam without the Agrayanam. So this Agrayanam ritual is, as I said, to be done when harvesting takes place. So there are 2 seasons in India. In fact, that's a good question to ask. How many seasons are there in India? In the Indian context, not the English seasons. We call it Ritu. What season is Ritu?
4.
How many Ritus are there?
6. 4.
6.
Make up your mind. Some people say 6, some people say 4.
6.
6. Consensus is 6?
Yes.
Okay, so 6 rituals there are. What are the names? You're all Indians, you know.
Shishir
Shishir.
Shishir is there.
Sharad.
Sharad is there. Then
Grishma,
Grishma.
Grishma is there.
Varsha.
Varsha is there.
Shishir. Hemant.
Hemant is
Hemant.
there. Okay, so there are 6. There are 6 seasons. Each season is called a Ritu. Each Ritu is 2 months approximately. So there is Varsha, which is the monsoons, and it's July to August. Then there is a Vasant. So remember that Vasant is Hindi. In Sanskrit, it becomes Vasanta. So Vasanta Ritu, spring, March, April. Grishma Ritu, this roughly summer. Sharada Ritu, September, October. Hemant Ritu, which is before the winter actually, pre-winter. And Shishira is winter. So at least we should know the names, okay? So this Agrahanam ritual is done when? Which Ritus? We are doing with harvesting. Harvesting is done twice a year in India.
Winter and spring.
No, talk to me about the Indian names.
Vasant Ritu and Sharad Ritu.
Vasant
Sharad
and
Ritu.
Sharad
Sharad
Ritu.
Ritu.
Very good. Sharad Ritu and Vasant Ritu are Sharada Kale and Vasanta Kale are the harvesting seasons. And therefore, Anagranam season, ritual is done during these two seasons, Sharada and Vasanta. Okay, why are we saying all these things? Because since you are learning the Upanishads, I thought most of us unfortunately do not know the names at all. Some of them are not, many of us are not even familiar with the names. So I'll bring in all these things occasionally. So at least once in a way, when you listen to the recordings, you know that these names, hit a bell somewhere. And then Atithi Varjitam Cha. So Atithi Varjitam has to be understood as Atithi Puja Varjitam Cha, not accompanied by Atithi Puja. What is the definition of Atithi? I have repeated several times in various classes. What is the definition of Atithi?
One who does not stay for more than a day.
Sanskrit.
Ah, okay.
Or Hindi.
Tithi. Tithi is a day.
Yeah.
So a tithi, one who does not stay for more than a day.
Na dvitiya tithi iti atithi. Okay. Na dvitiya tithi means the one who doesn't have a second night. The one who doesn't have a second day with you. Iti atithi. And therefore, atithi, the idea is a person who comes without information but doesn't stay beyond one night. So normally it refers to wandering sannyasis because they just wander by whichever house they come to. It was the dharma of the grahastha to make sure that there is food and stay for the night. And therefore, if you see all the very old houses, you will see that normally there will be a room outside which doesn't have entry from inside the house. It will have entry only from outside. That room would have attached bathroom and stuff like that. I don't know how many of you have seen such houses, but at least my traditional, ancestral house had that. Outside room was there. Any sannyasi came, any wandering guest came, he was put up there. Okay. This may sound strange in today's world where honored guests are put inside the room. He'll be very, very, very insulted if you put him outside, right? But remember here, this is a person who you don't know. So, na dvitiya tithi iti atithi, the one who does not stay more than a night because he is just going on a spiritual journey or wandering or a traveler, and therefore he is entitled to stay. The dharma is that a traveler can demand that I should stay and be fed. Okay. It is a very nice thing to do, but in today's world, it is not practical. Okay, then a Vaishvadevam. So there is Vaishvadevam means Vishvadevatas. Okay, there are how many Vishvadevatas? 10 of them are there. And therefore, these Vishvadevatas are to be offered food every day before the meals. So just like we have Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavi, there's also another ritual which is called a Vaishvadevam ritual, where before you eat, you are to offer food to these Vishvadevatas every day before the meals. And therefore, a Vaishvadevam means Vaishvadeva Karma Varjitam, not supported by this particular Vaishvadeva Karma, offering the food to the Vishvadevas. And therefore, the Agnihotram is not supported by that Vaishvadeva Karma, which is Nitya Karma, right? It's a daily fire rituals. So since it is Nitya Karma, it's like one of the Panchamahayajnas. And which Panchamahayajna will it fall under? Remember, you're offering food to the Devatas.
Devayagni.
Devayagni.
Okay. Then Ahutam. Now, Ahutam literally, Hutam means perform. Ahutam means not performed. And therefore, there's a grammatical problem here, right? Ahutam Agnihotram is what? What is a Ahutam Agnihotram?
One in which the offerings are not given during the ritual process.
No, literally means Ahutam Agnihotram. Literally means Agnihotram not performed. Okay. Now the grammatical problem is that if the Agnihotram is not, if it's taken the literal meaning as Ahutam Agnihotram, it means a not performed Agnihotram. It doesn't exist, that Agnihotram. And therefore, all the others, which are basically adjectives to the Agnihotram, right? Vaishwadeva Karma, all these are adjectives to this Agnihotram. That is grammatically wrong because you can't have an adjective to a noun which doesn't exist. The moment you say adjective, you're talking about a noun. The noun in this case is Agnihotram. And Ahutam Agnihotram means the noun doesn't exist. And therefore, Shankaracharya says this is not a fault in the mantra. So it has to be taken as not performed at the right time and not performed regularly. So Ahutam has to be understood not as not performed at all, but not performed at the right time or not performed regularly in accordance with the vidhi of the Shastra. And therefore, avidina hutam, even when the Agnihotram is performed at the right time, but not according to the rules, Shankara says, all these words, they indicate the deficient status of the Agnihotram. That Agnihotram has been performed, but incorrectly. Therefore, all these words you have to add on, and they are indicators of the deficient status, of the fact that the Agnihotram has not been done properly. And therefore, he says, you have to take it that all the subsidiary rituals, Darshayaga, Paurnamasam, Chaturmasam, those rules are the same for other rituals also, right? The rule about Darshayaga being as good as an Angam, as not really an Angam, because we said that Agnihotram is not an Angi, but Darshayaga being as good as an Angam because it's a mandatory ritual to be done correctly in accordance with the vidhi of the Shastra, the rules of the Shastra. Those have to be extended to all these, to Paurnamasam, Chaturmasyam, Agranam, all these. And you have to say that if the Agnihotram ritual is itself deficient by way of not being done properly in accordance with the rules, then all the Angams borrow that deficiency, right? They are not Angams, they are not as good as Angams, and therefore the Angi is defective. The main ritual is defective, then the Angam cannot be non-defective. And for such a person, what will happen? He says, Asaptaman lokan hinasti. Tasya. For that person, what happens for that person? Asaptaman, up to 7 worlds, Asaptaman lokan. Up to 7 worlds, hinasti, it destroys. So the prefix a is up to. Asapta, up to the 7th world, it destroys. All the 7 worlds, bhu, bhuvaha, swaha, maha, janaha, tapaha, satya. All these gets destroyed, which means that he is, remember, Shankara adds here, hinasti eva. Hinasti eva means as if destroyed, which means that because the worlds cannot actually be destroyed, and therefore Shankaracharya is very carefully in his commentary, he says, it has to be taken as hinasti eva, as if destroyed. There can be no literal destruction of the worlds. But you have to understand that he will not attain any of the 7 lokas because of the defective Agnihotram, defective ritual, which gives defective punyam. What is the only result? Ayasa matram. The only result is the effort that has been expended. The entire effort is ayasa matram. Ayasa means effort. So the whole effort that he has gone, afalatvat. It has gone waste. There is no phalam at all. Okay. Had the ritual, why does he give this interpretation? Had the ritual been performed properly, and properly means what? Fulfilling all the 8 conditions, then the result that is promised would have been obtained by him. And what is the result? The result is the achievement of the 7 lokas, right? Bhu, bhuva, swaha, all those up to Satyaloka. This is the karma phalam basically is what? is the achievement of these lokas. Now, one question should come. When he says that out of this Agnihotram, he achieves all the 7 lokas, you should have a question. What is that question?
Acharya ji, I don't know if it's the question, but we are already in the Bhuva Loka. So what does he mean by attaining all these 7 lokas?
Okay, fine. Let's say 6 higher lokas. We say, okay. Which one of the 6 higher lokas he would have got?
Brahma Loka, Swarga Loka or Brahma Loka? Is the 2 ones?
How do you arrive at that? Then why would Shruti say 6 lokas?
Mm,
You cannot presume.
I had that question.
But what is the question here? What is the actual question here?
That by performing all these karmas, we still cannot get moksha.
No. We are not. This is pure karma kanda, okay? So we are not talking about moksha at all. What is an obvious question when he says, see, we are talking about, the mantra talks about loka hinasti, okay? The destruction of 7 lokas, which we are extracting from there, which means that if he performs them properly, then the 7 lokas he would get. Right? That is the extraction. That is the extraction of the meaning. And my question is, what is the problem with saying that he will get the 7 lokas or 6 lokas? If you want to say that we are already there in Bhuloka, but actually that is not really correct. You can say 7 lokas also. So there are 2 questions that I have got. Why
But
can you
which
say
of the
7?
lokas will he get?
No, there are two questions. One is you can say 7 lokas also. Let's answer that question first. Why can he get any of the 7 lokas?
We are talking about rebirth in the next birth, which of them he is going to get?
Yes, that is correct. So the objection that we are already there in Bhuloka is not valid because you are no longer there in Bhuloka in the physical body. We're talking about the rebirth part. So you can get any of the 7 lokas. So that is settled. Now, when he says up to the 7 lokas all are destroyed, he's saying he will not get any of the 7 lokas, which seems to imply that if he does the punyam, then he will get all the 7 lokas. What is the question?
It cannot be simultaneous. It can be one loka at a time.
It can be one loka at a time because obviously you cannot exist in all the 7 lokas together. And therefore, which loka would you get? It's not as simple a question as it looks.
Tapa.
Acharya ji, if he does it just as a ritual, then he'll get the Swarg Loka. And if there is a component of Upasana, is to get the Brahma Loka. So then where does the other 2 lokas come in between?
Hello, Ravi ji, may I try?
Please, Natarajan.
Yeah, see, if you have to exist, assume for the time being that the statement is true, it is possible to exist in all the 7 lokas. That condition is true only if you are all pervading, when you become Brahman.
Yes. Which is not the context of the mantra because mantra is basically karma kanda.
Yeah, mantra. So the thing to look at it is you can attain probably the highest of the Lord, which means you already crossed all of them to reach there.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back to basics. The Agnihotram ritual, what does it do? What is the phalam? What is the phalam of any Vaidika karma?
Punyam.
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 Right? Now the question should be that how can this one Agnihotri ritual, even if you assume the answer that he can exist in only one of the 7 lokas, how can the one Agnihotri ritual give you 7 different types of punyam? Because you need 7 different quantities of punyam to take you to each of the lokas. To come back to Bhuloka, you need some punyam. To go to Bhuvaloka, you need more punyam. To go to Suvaloka, you need more punyam. To go to Brahmaloka, Satyaloka, you need maximum punyam. How is it that one Agnihotram ritual can give you different types of punyam? This is the question.
The Agnihotram when performed regularly.
Acharya ji, is it to do something with the, the 3 generations above and 3 generations
No,
below?
that will come to, but that's much later. Okay. So remember that even though Agnihotram karma is the same, and we are assuming that according to this mantra, he has done it properly. So there is Darsha Masam has been there, Pauranam Masam has been there, Chaturya Masam has been there, everything has been there, properly done. The entire Agnihotram is done properly. But remember that in any karma, the quality and quantity, the quality is dependent upon the way the karma is done, the mental focus that is there, and the quantity that is there. For example, supposing you chant the Gayatri mantra once every day, it gives you a certain amount of punyam. You can't say it won't give you punyam because Gayatri is a Vaidika karma, it's a Mansika karma. So it will give you punyam. Supposing you chant it 108 times, or 1008 times, or 10,008 times, will it give you the same amount of punyam as if you chanted once?
No,
No,
we
it would be
more
more.
him.
Remember that if you say it gives the same amount of punyam, then it is a waste of effort, right? So when you say I chant Gayatri one mala, so 108, or I chant Gayatri 1080, 10 mala, 100 malas, or whatever, 10 malas. Remember, the punyam is always different because it is dependent upon the quality and the quantity. Also, depending upon the quality of focus of the mind. Are you chanting it mechanically or are you completely focused? How much shraddha is there? How much your mind is focused? What is the regularity? All these factors go into deciding the amount of punyam available. And therefore, depending upon how you are doing it, any of the 7 lokas can be there, depending on how much punyam you have got. Right? And therefore, here Shankara says that if the Agnihotra is defective, the necessary punyam is not generated, and therefore you will attain none of these 7 lokas, not even the bhuloka, which means you go back to a lower life. And therefore he says, because of that reason, even if you do the Agnihotram but incorrectly, then the effort only the effort remains, and therefore the 7 lokas are said to have been destroyed. This is an explanation of loka hinasti. Why is it said that 7 lokas are destroyed? Okay, that is one meaning. There is another meaning. This loka here need not be taken as sapta loka. Shankaracharya says you can, this is again Shankaracharya's explanation only. The first explanation is also Shankara's, where he says 7 lokas are there. The second explanation, he says that there is also an alternative explanation. It can be 7 generations. Okay. So 7 generations are what? Pitru, Pitamaha. What is Pitra Pitamaha?
Father and
Father and
grandfather.
grandfather.
Father, grandfather. What is great grandfather called? Okay, so you have to add a pra in front. Okay, so it becomes Pitra, Pitamaha, pra Pitamaha. Pra makes it the great one, and therefore Pitra, father, Pitamaha, grandfather, pra Pitamaha, great grandfather. So these are 3 generations above you. And the 3 generations below you, Putra, Pautra, Prapautra. Okay, children, Putra, Pautra, grandchildren, Prapautra, great grandchildren. So that's 3 above you, 3 below you, and of course, you yourself. That is 7. Okay, now the question is, why do we take these 3 above and 3 below? What is the logic? The logic is that Shastra says that every ritualist, every karma kandi, the one who is doing the ritual, has connections to 3 generations above you and 3 generations below you. Why? Because the Shraddha karma, those Shraddha karmas are connected only to 3 generations above you and 3 generations below you. Therefore, when you give Pindadanam, you are giving and the other three below you? The connection is that when you do for your Pitra, Pitamaha and Prapitamaha, you are doing Pindadanam for them. You are giving. But you don't do Pindadanam for your children or great-grandchildren, do you?
They will do the
They
Pindada.
will do for us.
They will do for you. And
Yeah.
therefore, the ritualist has two sets of connections. One where he gives and one where he gets. So you are giving to three sets of generations, three generations above you, and you are getting the Pindadanam from three generations below you. And therefore, in the form of these blessings, the Shraddha, Tarapanam, etc., this can be taken instead of the first meaning. So there are 7 generations. So which is, if you don't do Agnihotram properly, neither will your offerings reach the 3 generations above you, nor will the offerings of the 3 generations below you benefit you. This is the second meaning. Okay. Now again, you should have one question over here. One very simple question should have occurred to you by now. When you do Pinda Danam, what is the net effect of the Pinda Danam? The phalam is going to whom?
To you yourself.
2 years.
Pinda
Myself.
Danam phalam goes to you?
To the forefathers.
To the forefathers. So what's the question? What should the question be?
How can a karma done by you give a phalam to
Yes,
someone else?
you are violating karta eva bhokta rule. What's the answer? Any lawyers here? Lawyers should be able to provide the answer. No? Supposing you want to, let us say, you have some house in some remote part of India and you want to sell it and you are not able to go there. What do you do?
Power of attorney.
Power of attorney, right? And it has to be a specific power of attorney. So in that specific power of attorney, what happens? The karma is being done by who?
Us. By me.
No. The actual signing is done by whom?
The
When you give power of attorney, what does it mean? You have the power of attorney holder has been authorized by you to sign the document of sale.
Yes.
transfer of rights.
Karma is done by the power of attorney holder, but who gets the benefit?
The owner.
You get the benefit, right? So the law provides that, nor in the even the civil law provides that somebody else can do an action which can give you the benefit. So normally the action is done and the benefit comes only to you, right? For that matter, to take a even worst case, supposing there is one person X who has let us say motivated Y to commit a crime. When the law catches up, who will get punished?
Why?
Who motivates?
You mean to say X1 Y1 get punished?
No, the one who commits the crime.
X1 get
No.
punished?
Both of them will be punished.
Both of them, but
Both of them will get punished, but the person who motivates gets a higher share of punishment. Okay. So this rule is enshrined in Shastram also. So Shastram says that normally karta eva bhokta rule is there, but there are specific cases specifically provided in the Shastram where the rule of karma phalam going to the karta is waived and the karma phalam can go to somebody else. So it is like special power of attorney. Okay. Only in such cases. And in the case of Shraddha karma, Shastra provides that and it specifically provides, and therefore only you can take it. Like, you cannot say that just because I gave a sankalpa that I am doing this and somebody else should get benefit, that will happen. You cannot say that. It has to be specifically covered by the exception provided in the Shastra. And in this case, Shastra provides an exception saying that for Shraddha karma, your actions, you will not get the benefit. It will go to the person whom you intended to get the benefit. Okay. So, and this, therefore, Shankaracharya says that if the karma is defective, then the 7 generations or the 6 generations above, 3 generations above, 3 generations below will not get the benefit, nor will you get any benefit. Hence, 7 generations will not get benefit of any of the karmas because of the defective Agnihotram, and therefore they can be said to be destroyed. So it is from the hins dhatu. Hins basically means to destroy, destruction. Okay. All right. Any questions?
Sir, a very stupid question.
No questions are stupid. Please go ahead.
So, for example, if my forefathers have done the Agnihotram in the absolute right manner,
Yeah.
but I'm not being able to do it due to some XYZ reason, will my forefathers not get the benefit that they have done the karma for?
Forefathers have done karma for their
For their
forefathers, not for you.
forefathers.
Not for you.
Yeah.
Don't think that the karma of your forefathers has anything to do with you.
No,
It is
not
only-
for me, but for themselves.
It goes upward. No. What
Okay.
they have done, it goes up to their forefathers. What you have not done does not go to your forefather. As simple as that.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Hello, Ravi ji.
Yes, Natarajanji.
Oh, Acharya.
Children.
Rinkuji, 1 minute. Let Natarajanji finish.
Yeah, okay, no, let Rinku ask. I have no problem, Ravi ji.
Okay, whichever. You guys decide.
No, ladies first.
Ladies first. Yes, Rinku. Hello.
Okay.
Anyways, thank you. Acharya ji,
Rinku, we are not able to hear you.
the purpose of the Agnihotram is simply kind
I heard up to purpose of the Agnihotram is simply. After that, what? No, apparently she's having trouble with her mic. Natarajanji, why don't you go ahead?
Viji, there are 2 questions actually. What if you have no children? Does it mean that because I am not going to have any children, my forefathers will suffer? That is first question. Second question is, what if I say I'm saying my children should not do any of these rituals I don't want, and I don't give the power of attorney or stop anybody from acting on that?
Okay.
Then because of my action, my previous generations are going to suffer.
Because you have not done any, you're not mentioned whether you have done the karma or not.
What I'm saying is, suppose I don't have any children.
Okay.
Now, that is my next generation. But my next generation, when they do, they have to offer it to 3 generations above them. No, that includes my father and grandfather.
But you don't have children, no?
No. Therefore, by my not having children, I am harming the benefit to be accrued by my forefathers. No.
For 2 generations above you.
So
yes.
that is my question. So how can, if I don't have a children, the penalty, if any, should come to me. Why penalize my poor parents who did their duty by producing me?
Because they gave birth to you, and therefore some part of your problem will also go to them.
Okay. The second question is, if I say, look, don't perform any ritual, none of my children should do because for whatever reason.
Okay.
And I with them. So that means the power of attorney is not given at all.
No, in this case, the Shastra says, doesn't give you leeway to withdraw that power of attorney. Shastra doesn't say that you have the right to tell your children not to do for you. If you have children, they have to do for you. That is Shastric command. So you can't say that I've got children, but you can't do for me.
What if the child himself, the child decides, I'm not doing it? So
That's fine. And that is the case with almost all of us, isn't it? How many of us really do regularly? We don't. So this is relevant only in the context where there was very widespread adherence to karma kanda. Now the people don't even know what it means. So all this, the Vaidika karma of the Vedas have been replaced by all sort of karmas now. You really can't take it too literally. You can say that I don't have children, or you can say I love children and they won't do for me, and therefore I will not get the benefit. That is a true statement. But the point is, this is karma kanda only, and as long as you are identified with the body, this karma kanda is applicable to you. But as you go on, even in the Mundaka Upanishad, as you go on, what you're going to do is you're going to disown the body. Then whether somebody does rituals or not is immaterial to you, because it is not affecting you. It is affecting the body which was Natarajana here. So the progress is quite, startling. You start off immersed in karma kanda, and then you get into all sort of problems. Then you turn around and say, but really speaking, I am not the body at all. So what difference does it make to me?
Yeah, but that if I'm not the body at all, then I've reached moksha. So that's not talking of that condition at all, no?
We are not talking that condition, but that is the ultimate aim. And therefore, we need not be terribly bothered about the fact that you are not doing rituals for your, forefathers, or that your children won't do rituals for you. We shouldn't really be bothered.
Let me put the question in a different way. Suppose I turn sannyasa and I don't have children after. That means do all these sannyasis who not got moksha. Okay, I'm under that situation. Sannyasi got that. Now they are, further generation is gone. So all those benefits of that sannyasi's father and grandfather,
that is gone. That is gone. But the fact that you have taken sannyasa means you have cut the sacred thread, which means you have cut your connection to karma kanda completely. You are no longer bound by karma kanda at all. That is what sannyasa ritual actually is. Karma kanda is no longer applicable to you. You are only in the search of jnana.
Yeah. Therefore, what about my poor father and grandfather? I mean,
yeah, they don't get the benefits. But the fact of your taking sannyasa, they have produced a child who has taken sannyasa. That is great punyam in itself.
See, their having produced a child is fine, but the actions of the child affecting them, now that is what is actually being debated.
That is there. It will affect them without any doubt.
Raviji, can I add something related to this point?
Please.
So it seems it's in Narada Bhakti Sutras, somewhere it comes one point that if somebody gets moksha, or in this case sannyasa, since Shankara considers them almost equivalent. So if somebody gets moksha, it seems all the Pitrus dance, meaning they celebrate, meaning it's a great joy. So basically the description is like, if there's a tree, the goal of the tree is finally to flower and produce a fruit. Everything else that the tree does is just to support the fruit, the production of the fruit. So similarly, if anybody in the lineage, in the family lineage, reaches moksha, or reaches that spiritual goal, then it is like a great success for the whole family itself.
The whole lineage. Yes, that is true. That's what I mean by saying that there's a lot of punyam involved in the fact that you have taken sannyasa or got moksha, whichever.
Acharya, I think I lost the signal at that time. So, Acharya, this is regarding, we mentioned here that the Agnihotram ritual has to give some element of punyam. The karma phalam is some punyam. And individually, when it is done, it's a complete ritual in itself. So some punyam will be generated. However, the other subsidiary rituals also in themselves are complete rituals, but along with the Agnihotram punyam, they will generate more punyam than the Agnihotram punyam ritual done by itself alone.
Absolutely.
And if they are not done, then it destroys the 7 worlds. So this term destruction means the punyam gets completely nullified. Is that
no? You don't achieve. There is not sufficient punyam to take you across to the 7 worlds.
Okay, so all the 7 have to be done. All the other rituals have to be performed
They are
along
mandatory.
with Agnihotram
Yes, they are mandatory
ritual.
rituals. Even though we don't call them angams, but they are mandatory. Each of them is a basic main rituals. Each can be called a angi. 7 angi rituals are there. There are no angams.
So it's something like the Mahapanchagna, that all the 5
all have to be done.
essentially are important, and by doing only one, it is not does not take care of the entire.
Yeah, you are getting the punyam, but not the necessary quantity required to transport you across.
Okay. Thank you.
Raviji, can I ask something
course.
about the Shrad and
Yes,
Tarpanam?
yes, madam.
So we know that the Veda says that doing those Pitru rituals generate punyam for the forefathers.
Yeah.
But is the reverse also true, that not doing generates papam? Because that can't be right.
It doesn't generate any papa, because it's a very simple thing, asat karyavada. From something which is not there, nothing can be generated.
Yeah.
But
So
you remember the earlier argument that it can be taken as the revealer of.
Yeah, pratyavaya.
Pratyavaya. Yeah.
So that's okay. So basically the point of doing these is the, support in the form of extra punyam that the forefathers get.
Correct. And remember, even from the, it's all this is basically meant for a karma kandi who's not looking at jnana kanda. But even for a jnana kandi, remember, ultimately, whatever you do in terms of own effort, unless it is supplemented by Ishvara Anugraha, moksha is far away. And therefore, the punyam is basically tapping into Ishvara Anugraha, even if you are not looking at any karma kanda results. And therefore, you should continue to do Vedika karma. Also, I'll again add that if Vedic karma is not possible in today's context, which is for most of us, then you continue to do other karma, which we call karma yoga, generating punya.
So keep the spirit even if the form changes.
Form is relevant always. The form is maya always. The spirit has to be there. And every action of yours has to be dedicated to the Lord, whatever you are doing. Then I think that's only a diversion from you. Okay, it's not sanctioned by the Veda. But if you are not able to do Vedic karma, what do you do? Like most of us are not able to, we don't even know what Agnihotra mantras are. I don't know. I don't know how many of you all do.
So we can do other prayers.
You can do all karma. Every karma you can do, just dedicate it to Ishvara. That takes care of everything.
Yeah. Because an extension of Natarajan sir's question was, I think generally male children do these Shraddha and Tarpanam rituals.
Correct.
And, that is why the whole big deal about having a male child.
Yes, that is true.
So,
but if you look at the, what they call the main priests today, all the mutts, they will not openly say it, but they are not against girls doing Tarpanam.
Yeah, they are not against girls taking Upanayanam also, but they will not openly come out.
They will not openly saying it.
Yeah.
There is a reason for that. Okay, the reason for that is, a very practical reason is that if you insist on this male, there's a very good chance that Veda itself will die out, and they cannot allow that to happen. And therefore, the necessary relaxation, dilution necessary, they are bringing in without openly saying so.
Yeah, if they openly say so, it will become a big riot and rebellion.
Yeah, but we openly say so because we have not got no followers. There's no problem.
Yeah.
Om sir, may I ask a question?
Yes, Vinita ji, boliye.
Sir, there are some modifications in the modern time because of the inability of able to get priests or do the shraddhas. So they have certain other shortcuts, like a particular temple does it as proxy. So is this anywhere actually permitted in Shastra, or is it a modern modification?
let me ask you a question. When we get married,
Yes.
how many of us know the mantras?
Very few.
How many of us
Very
chant the
few.
mantras?
I had an uncle who said that his wife married the priest because he
Exactly.
recited most of them.
Exactly. The priest is chanting the mantras. So the priest is marrying everybody. So, you can take it in that meaning, or you can also say that he is my agent, so whatever it does binds me. That's why I give him a dakshina.
Right.
That is why they say adakshina. Without dakshina, no rituals will be done, because then you have not validated the contract between you and the priest.
Right. Yes.
Sir, did I miss the answer to the question you previously asked that if the Agnihotra is done properly, then you attain 7 lokas. So how are you attaining all the 7 lokas?
Because it depends upon the number of punyam, amount of punyam which you have generated. And that amount of punyam depends upon what is the quality and what is the quantity of your effort. The more the quality and the more the quantity, the higher the punyam, and therefore the higher loka you obtain. For Brahma loka, if pure karma is not sufficient, you have to supplement with upasana also, which we saw in 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so thank you for your patience. With this, we'll stop for today. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya.